I'm Umaimah. I am the founder and CEO of Opal Security.
Umaimah, thanks for hanging out with me at Enterprise Ready Conf. How are you feeling today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Chen.
Yeah. How's the event been for you so far? I know we're just getting started.
Old faces, new faces, a lot of fun, a lot of hot takes.
So tell me a little bit about your company.
I am the CEO and co-founder of Opal Security. We build intelligent access and identity controls. It's a very hot space right now, a lot of noise, but basically think everything on the who side and everything on the what side, and how do you tie it all together, and how do you make sure it's automated and intelligent and adapting dynamically?
Yes, it feels like we're in a time right now where we kind of don't give a shit about any of that stuff. So I'm curious, like, what are some of the areas where you're seeing people failing miserably all the time?
Yeah, so, what I'd say is we historically haven't given a shit that much in tech, specifically about authorization, which is the who has access to what. And it's because we did a really good job on the are you say who you are, aka authentication. That
Yeah,
has, like, maybe for the last 30 years been the much harder and honestly, like, kind of fancier technology to build. Think biometric scanning, MFA, encryption,
yeah.
right? And
Yeah, it's cool. We have all
yeah,
this like sci-fi memory of
exactly,
like,
like
oh yeah, how cool would it be if
WorldCoin,
we did this?
yeah, and that was the hard problem to solve, right? Like, we generally worked, human to human, we trusted each other,
Hmm.
especially in tech, we tend to generally work, like, pretty fast-paced, move fast, like,
Yeah.
we give broad access. What's changed is, things are about to change, right, technologically, first and foremost. We
Yeah.
don't know what it'll look like completely, but one aspect of that is, there's this rise of agents, and that could take the shape of different workforces with more sort of fragmented trust, more limited understanding of who.
Yeah.
And that does create this breaking point for authorization specifically, which has long
Yes.
been kind of the ignored part of the stack.
Yeah.
Um, Especially kind of in fast moving, up and coming, like sort of tech sector enterprises. And uh, at some point, like, it all just kind of comes crashing down, but that's okay because that's kind of how security works, right? Like, big
Yes.
security shifts often happen with the rise of major technological shifts, and we're in one right now. The last kind of major sort of like tectonic shift we had was the rise of cloud. We saw like
Yes.
new IDPs come out. We saw new
Hmm.
network security protocols come out. We saw new like endpoint security players come out. And so we're going to see that start to happen. And the thing that's going to fall actually is identity and access first. Sorry, I'm not biased at all. Yeah. Yeah.
But what are some of the things that we need to look out for? Obviously you're ahead of this. Like, what do you see as like this is the thing that's going to like ruin a lot of people before we realize like how to get it right?
Yeah. So first is unlike, adopting like cloud or hyperscalers into your organization, it's pretty easy to bring in an agents into your organization and tell them to go off and do their thing. And so I do think the first thing we're going to see fall is actually access control, right?
Mm,
These technologies are already being adopted well before anyone can set good
yes.
governance controls or policies. And we're starting to kind of solve it in a little bit of a reactive way. It's not totally a bad thing, but like
Hmm.
one area is, we're getting really we're getting really focused on things like authn for MCP, right?
Yes.
We're doubling down on just-in-time access controls. These aren't necessarily bad things, but they're early in the game, and we're still not sure how the game plays out. And so, one analogy I like to give here is like, for like MCP servers, it's like everyone's building their own damn printer driver, right? And we're all gonna make our own printer drivers, and
Which was super cool at one point.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then
And then, HP laid the hammer down and was like, "No, no, no, no. Here's the official driver," or like whatever, right?
but
And
we got this. Don't
and
worry
and
about
it'll
it.
sort of we'll see sort of that happen. The big
Yeah.
model providers will start to set the sort of standards, but in the
Hmm.
meantime, we're going to see a lot of innovation, but also potentially the attack vector will open up in ways that we didn't
Yeah.
anticipate because I mean, the reality is we have to build and we have to try things. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess specifically with MCP, since that's the hot topic this year, like, where do you see people like being too excited and like most insecure?
I think it's a pretty nuanced question. And I do want to state I don't think the excitement is necessarily a bad thing.
Sure.
I think we're building around this technology very quickly without being sure completely if it's the protocol that will like fully be the interface,
Interesting.
right? Like,
Yeah.
is it the new REST API? I mean, there's like good reason to believe so, but
Hmm.
we're not quite there yet, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so as a result of that, you're going to start to see, some security issues largely resultant of the fact that we're building around this as a core architectural
Mm-hmm.
assumption.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's going to make things a little weird and messy for a bit. Other areas, I mean, listen, people are going to make things, they're going to jack up the volume of these things,
Yeah.
wacky things will happen. I'm a little bit of an optimist when it comes to this. I don't
Yeah.
think the world goes down in flames because somebody made like 2 million agents and they all went berserk. I think we are, in some sense, course correcting very quickly as we're starting to
Mm-hmm.
capture
Mm-hmm.
these things. So, and that's like the nature of security in general. It's not actually just technological. It's actively responding to like kind of the full environment.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I love identity so much is because the who is shifting so rapidly that you get
Yes.
to kind of like co-evolve with whatever is happening in the world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like who is you when like you have
Yeah.
1,000 agents working on your
Yeah.
behalf?
Is it you? Is it your agents? Is it the digital employee you've got in the corner over there? Right.
Yeah.
And so the answer is we don't know, and I'm sorry if that sounds like a little bit like a cop-out answer, but, if you think about it, it's just gonna co-evolve, like, this
Yeah.
is literally, like, technological evolution, and some markets are going to have to keep up with that,
Yeah.
hardware and security is one of them, just to know kind of, like just to continue to, like, rapidly evolve those technologies. I think the one thing I will say, though, is, when all else moves out with the tide and things are left standing, there's going to still be this concept of identity. There's going to be this concept of data, right?
Yeah.
And some way to tie them together and orchestrate them.
Yeah, I love that. We were actually talking, I was talking with one of our team about kind of like advanced RBAC and this idea of like resources and user groups, etc. I'm curious, like, do you feel like we will need to add new concepts, or are those concepts still like concepts still good and we just need to develop more mastery of them?
No, this is a wonderful question. I would say that there's a lot of primitives or building blocks,
Mm-hmm.
and let's call it like authorization and access broadly. And RBAC is good as a potential strategy to use in some of those areas. So I don't know if folks always know this. RBAC is actually like an old military protocol. It's like
Oh
need to
wow,
know
I didn't know that.
basis. Yeah. And it was developed for these like very rigid, highly information sensitive structures,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it works really well if you're in this like very regimented front office, back office, right?
Yes.
Like, this is you, you're a trader, you touch these systems. This is an investment banker, this is
Yeah.
what they touch. And so I think right now, people unnecessarily kind of shit on RBAC. And it's more like think of it as a building block. You're going to apply it in some areas and in some
Yeah.
types of businesses, along with MFA controls or JIT controls, et cetera. But dynamic access is probably going to dominate these things. Call it XBAC, call it like, whatever you want to call it. And it's a lot more about understanding the context and the attributes and kind of like the who. So like going back to kind of the government analogies, right?
Yeah.
The safest way to give broad permissions is by running a background check and giving you a security clearance.
Sure.
So you
Yeah.
holistically understand, does this entity have sufficiently good judgment that we can clear out information levels or give them access to certain systems? I think
Interesting.
technology will kind of evolve more along those lines.
Wild.
Yeah. The pieces aren't fully there, but
Yeah.
I mean, that's where authorization gets done really well, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's wild. Like, rather think about how much information you need in order to kind of on the fly have a dynamic system that's able
Mm-hmm.
to be reliable
A
and
lot. Isn't
yeah.
that crazy? I like to joke that security is all about judgment. It's all about
Mm,
weighing risk and trade-offs. It's not just like straight technical intelligence or
interesting.
understanding.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, developing systems that can make judgment calls at different points in time of a business, at different
Yes.
types of growth trajectories and different business maturity events, that's a really interesting and difficult technology to build. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
kind of terrifying too.
Yeah.
Like in the same way that it took us a while to like embrace AI as this like non-deterministic factor in
Uh-huh.
our applications and
Yeah.
code bases and
Yeah.
whatnot. The idea of like a non-deterministic like judgment system
Well,
for is kind of wild.
one of the funny things about being a founder and a CEO is a lot of your job is making judgment calls with
Hmm.
as much signal as you have in that point in time. It's
Yeah.
in large ways a non-deterministic job, right?
Yeah.
And I like to joke that actually a lot of CISOs make pretty good CEOs because that's what they're doing constantly. They're
Yeah.
setting strategy, they're weighing risk trade-offs, and
Yeah.
they're going. And it is scary, right?
It is scary.
But that's sort of like kind of the elephant in the room. Security teams know this. They know
Yeah.
like what's at stake anytime they're making these types of strategies or systems. And that's why having really strong foundations of like clear sources of truth, clear, like architecturally, like programmatically generated sources of data, it helps make good decisions because there's not always a ton of time or a ton of information. So as much as you can have that,
Yeah.
it helps. Yeah.
Do you have one piece of advice for, founders, like startups, companies trying to figure out their like identity and access control right now
Yeah.
that would help prepare them and guide them over the next, year or 2 years?
Yeah. Um, this is an interesting period of time because usually, maybe even in the last 5 years, like you didn't really think about bringing in heavy duty security and risk controls until you were a big business. But a
Yeah.
lot of that is about to change. So as you're thinking about building your stack for security, think about how you're weighing those productivity and risk trade-offs because things will evolve a lot faster than you may realize. Like companies are now 4 or 5 people and doing these massive enterprise contracts with like
Yeah.
folks like Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan. They're dealing with these kinds of very nuanced judgment and risk calls that, like the generation of startups 10 years ago never even had to think about, right?
Yeah.
And think about it holistically because it's going to evolve a lot more rapidly than you realize. And these systems are really hard to rip out once they're in.
Yeah.
It's a commitment. Security is always a commitment because you're trusting this technology and the individuals who run this technology to make very far-ranging decisions for your
Yeah.
business. Yeah.
I really do like that notional shift though of like thinking about a system that's able to make judgment calls and is flexible in that thing versus like you have this, you can do this. So
Yeah.
like kind
Yeah.
of a very concrete, strict system.
Yeah. I will say that one of the more rewarding parts of like my job is I get to talk to a lot of world-class CISOs,
Yeah.
and you can just see that level of judgment and honestly really hard decision making
Yes.
in their thinking, and the ability to even bring that level of sophistication to
Hmm.
the rest of us is really exciting.